Vaping, checking in live, man. RespectMyRegion.com. Here today on another episode of the RMR podcast, brought to you guys by, today it's Extract Consultants, our terpene sponsor, everybody. So we appreciate Extract Consultants for providing the sponsorship for the episode. We have a very special guest. This is our 148th official episode. We have the original cannabis distillate vape company. I called it offline a second ago, the Nike of Colorado cannabis, because they came to Washington when I was just a bright rookie bud tender, and I was so excited. I still get nervous to interview Rich. I don't know why, but today we've got Brett Schklar and we've got Richard Batenburg. Brett's the CMO. That means Chief Marketing Officer, and Rich is the big boss dog, Chief Executive Officer. Fellas, welcome. Good afternoon. How you living?
You know, we're here. Glad to be here, Joey. Good to see you again. It's been a couple of shows in Vegas, so maybe this year we can connect.
I'm trying to do a better job of, because we obviously all travel. We are in different markets, and I love MJ BizCon. It brings us all together. Yep. But I'm starting to see less and less people there for less amounts of time when I do see them, right? Yep. And so I want to be able to spend quality time with groups like you guys in Colorado, groups like Massachusetts and New Jersey, all these different markets where community and culture is getting stronger now that it's legalized. But also, too, this streaming method, this connection here. Fellas, Rich, it's just like we were just seeing each other again the other day. And that's the good thing about energy and doing it live together is we're able to do this and connect and tell these stories. I want to learn a little bit about you, Brett. We're going to talk a little bit about your background. Rich, we're going to remind the people where you come from and your family and those things and the clear there. We're going to talk a little bit about that sign behind you guys, the original, high-potency, award-winning flavors, rigorously inspected. Colorado cannabis is where you guys are at, man. You guys are in Denver. What was it like creating the clear? What was it like being the first and the original? Rich, you've been there from the beginning. We'll start with you first. Remind the people, who the heck is the clear? What was it like being the first at what you do?
Sure. Well, the Clear really started originally in Long Beach with Chris Perrone and Courtney Maltese, Brian Maltese, and Chase Martin. And they brought it to Colorado, and then we got involved with it and really popularized it or expanded.
So this is the roots. It's got LB roots here right now. I'm in San Pedro right now. I'm looking at Long Beach this way. Wow, I had no idea.
Right down the street from San Pedro.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So that was, they got together, they were living in a flop or a commune in LB, and they're all from the Northeast, New Hampshire and Vermont, and they, when they were young, graduated college, went out to California to chase weed or waves, one of the two, probably both.
In Long Beach, weed and waves for sure.
Yeah, and and they came up with the molecular distillation with regard to cannabis anyway, because Chris Perrone is the chemist, and then Courtney was the botanist, and Brian was an engineer. So they were creating their version of the thin film wiper, and Chase was the marketing guy. So together, and then they had an unnamed flavorist as a friend as well. So there were 5 of them that got together and really created. Originally, it was about creating higher potency versions of very popular strains like what we still have today, OG, which at the time, we could call it Death Star OG, and Golden Goat, XJ13, and Lemon Haze. They branched out into the flavors that we're really known for, blue raz and strawberry banana and lime sorbet, and we got 20 some flavors now, but it's really about pairing those flavors with the weed, with the THC, and terping the formulations so that we could actually make the same product in every state. And we've been in as many as 14 states over the last 13 years now. But because we're formulated, purified, and then reformulated with botanicals, we're not don't use anything that's synthetic. But whether you buy a blue raz made in California, Colorado, Nevada,
Jersey, Mass, Missouri.
yeah,
You said Montana.
literally coast to coast. It's going to be the same because of what Courtney, Chris, Brian, and Chase did back in 2012, 2013. That
Wow.
was really what gravitated me to get involved with them back in 2017. And, ever since then, it's been full speed on how many different states can we get into. And we've looked internationally, haven't done anything yet, but it's really about the fact that we have consumer packaged good consistency and quality, which is highly unusual in the cannabis industry because it's all very craft, and there's places for craft products, but we're after kind of a wider audience and a real consistent experience.
And that's the thing, Joey, that I love about this is no matter where you go, that consistency, the flavor tastes the same, the experience tastes the same. Whether it's our clear vapes, which everybody absolutely loves, the distillate, or it is our infused pre rolls that use the same flavor strategy with our Twax brand of
Yeah.
products. Um, Everywhere you go, it's consistent. It is tried and true. It is trusted because somebody that lives in maybe Colorado that goes and visits Massachusetts all the way across the country, they get the exact same experience, the exact same product. We spend so much time and energy and money and time on planes going to these markets to test ourselves the quality of the product because we want every hit to be consistent. We want that quality, that transparency, and that consistency that you feel and love in Colorado, whether it's the clear, vape, or it's Twax, to be the same thing no matter where you are. And that is hard. And I
Yeah.
think that is exactly why, before we hit the live button here, you were talking about that, we must have a really good ground cover business because the air cover, the press releases and the news, we don't really do a lot of chest beating ourselves.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really great is when you have a product that is consistent, that is great, that the flavor is amazing, that in the pre-rolls you get the full flower versus the trim, is the product speaks for itself. We just
So
have to
many
shut
people
up and
say
get out
that
of the
their
way.
product and their brand does that, right, Brett? And it and it just really doesn't.
We just got to
I
get
feel
out of
like
the
they
way
do
and
it as
let
a
the
way to
product speak
cover
for
up their
itself.
short, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's crazy. No, I mean that makes perfect sense. I feel like a lot of times these brands will say that, and it's really just to overcome to put a to kind of like distract from what their shortcomings really are,
Right.
right? Because not everybody has money, or not everybody has the same business, or maybe they haven't had the success or their market, whatever their variables are that go into wherever the reality is. But push comes to shove, the product does have to be good, has to be consistent. 9 times out of 10, it's got to taste good. 95% of the time, it's got to taste good at least. Like there's always going to be oddballs and flavors or whatever that don't fit, but at the end of the day, as you guys said, there's 20 plus for them to choose from, and you guys have like at least I think I heard you allude to like 4 or 5 staples, things like
Yeah.
lime sorbet and that strawberry banana. When I think of the clear guys, I think of trusted. I think of high potency. I think of there was that time when the clearer the oil, the more the better it was. There was like that phase, which was kind of like we'll call it like a trend, if you would. People thought
Yeah.
it was created because of the clear, but really it was just a trend of extractors starting to mimic your product at a
Right.
time, where
Yeah.
science was catching up to you guys. I think,
Right.
right, from a
And it's
product.
interesting though, what we found was that while people were copying us and sort of, riding the coattails of what we had done, their ability to maintain that consistency hasn't been there. And I think that's why there's a lot of people over our 13-year tenure that have come and gone who have tried to do this process that have not quite succeeded where we have.
Yeah, well, with the fluctuating markets, um, like I said, we have been in and out of 7 markets that we're not currently operating in. It's not because we don't like them, and it's not because of anything other than our commitment to quality is such that when there's oversupply or lack of enforcement or gross taxation or pick something because it all roads lead to California. They have done everything they could to kill the business while taxing it out of business. There's a certain price point where we just can't go under, and when there's oversupply and the prices are getting crushed, I can't put out a good product for $5 or $6. Our hardware costs more than that. It's just there's a regression line that we pass, and unfortunately, we've had to leave California, we've had to leave Washington, we had to leave Michigan, we had to leave most recently New Mexico. It's because we'll end up going back there eventually, but the market needs to stabilize, and the people, unfortunately, the people of those states are having to go to states where we are, and we see it all the time, particularly in Nevada and Colorado. We still get some tourism out of the West because we're here and we can maintain the level of quality that we feel is important. So.
Now, people, what do you guys have to say to the people? Because obviously the oil has changed. Being the first with a high potency, clean distillate product, as you said, rigorously inspected. You guys have to operate in multiple markets. That's multiple levels of compliance, varying standards of potency, heavy metals, mold, mildew, all of these different things. We know the math in the labs is all different from lab to lab, so it's like you could take the same identical product and it could get different scores, whatever it is. Who cares, right? But what do you guys have to? What are your thoughts? What do you guys have to say for where oil is today in terms of there was the live resin wave, there was the rosin wave, the cured resin wave came back after the rosin wave, which was wild, and then now there's we're seeing rosin with botanical terpenes, and we're seeing live resin with terpenes and stacks and mixing of the two. You guys are the first and the original at doing this, and you guys have botanical terpene flavors. What are your thoughts on just where the state of oil and extracts from a vaping standpoint's at? And Brett, for you, marinate on this part. How do you navigate all of that from we're trying to market to groups of people and chunks and demographics? How do we? So just marinate on that part for your part of it, Brett.
Yeah, so why don't you, because it's all about target market and decisions. This is the biggest issue in our industry, is there's a tendency to want to be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
Is part of why, I've known Brett for 23 years.
A couple hundred years.
Yeah. So, we worked together when I was in software business. We hired Brett about 1.5 years ago. Because we've decided as a company to really focus on a persona and a target market, and a wise man told me, a lot of times the money you make is in the deals you don't do, and I would say that for the most part, cannabis companies that don't sit back, actually define a target market, not trying to be everything to everybody, and quite frankly, not bullshitting yourself into thinking that everybody's going to love what you got, right? You just got to understand who you are, what you are, be proud of what you are, and do it really well. And so, that's really what Brett works on, right? So talk about targeting.
Well, I think, Joey, to your point, there's all these new types of ways that people are bringing things together. And I think they're great. And I think that there is a market for those. And as we know, the cannabis market is continuing to grow, albeit a smaller rate for the people that traditionally, use cannabis. What we're finding is, if you think of us as the original formulation, like Coca-Cola, there's cherry Coke, there's Diet Coke, there's Coke Zero, there's the Mexican Coke, which is without with real sugar versus
cane sugar. Yeah, I love those ones.
And so we find that we are the Coke original, and so we when people come to look for us, it's because they just don't want to have to think about it. They know what they're getting with us. Back to that consistency, to that
the risk of that $25 or that $35 is significantly, perceptively decreased.
Yep.
Versus some random brand at a store.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, especially in the vape category, is You could have the greatest oil and it could be the best experience of everything that's inside of that tube. But if the hardware sucks, or if you're not thinking end to end about the entire end user experience, there are challenges. And so, we do probably spend more than the average brand on our technology, on our innovation, but finding a way to make sure that when a customer picks up the Clear, they know exactly what they're getting. And back to your point about us, the trust. The trust is only earned if the product does what it says it's going to do. It consistently delivers. It doesn't clog. And again, we're not a hardware company. We're a cannabis company. We're all about the oils. But if you can't deliver the product in the little tube where the gold, where the gold is, then it's a ruined experience.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these things, we have just made a conscious effort that as we go more national, and as we go international, we want people to know exactly what they're going to get. Like we are a comfortable T-shirt that you put on when you come home from work, or it's the car you get back into that you've loved and you've had, versus the rental car that you've driven that you hated, right? We want that comfort, and that trust allows us to actually go and do more innovative things than other people have, in a way that allows us to do another thing which we really do well, which is not only knowing the target market of the people who love and care for and are about the community and culture of cannabis, but there's also an entirely other market of people who have been cannabis curious for a long time, but have been afraid of entering the market. And so one of the other things we're doing as we establish that trust, as we continue to expand that trust to other people, is introducing products that aren't about getting you even more high or having even higher potency or putting you into another planet in a different way. But we're actually, while our high potency of the Clear vapes are strong, and there is nothing better than an infused Twax pre-roll to enjoy the end of your day, we're also finding that there's a larger market that is cannabis curious, that is wanting something that is much lower power, introduces different effects, right? So all of the minors and the cannabinoids that would be coming into place, and diffuse those together in a way that has that same potency concept that we're known to love for, but creates that potency within the CBDs, within the CBGs, within the CBNs, within THCV. So we actually have launched to go after an expanded market, our Clear Effects vapes.
I was just going to say, there's got to be effects-based vapes then.
Yeah. So there's the Clear Effects vapes. So effects being EFX.
Can you guys hold it up a little closer?
Yeah. And in fact, I'll just do this. I'll cover up. Let's just do it here, so we're not covering up our faces.
That's fine.
But our new vape strategy is a very thin, very low profile, very discreet piece of hardware. Again, making sure it's consistent.
Oh, you color-coded the batteries to the effects and everything, didn't you?
So we've got rest, relax, recover, focus, energy, and escape, using a combination of the majors and minors. And back to our potency, the people who are interested in this, they're not interested in the potency of the THC. They're interested in the potency of the minors.
Yes.
And so we're having a lot of fun there. But we haven't stopped with that. The other thing we've identified is, as people want to be more discreet, they also want to try a different experience. So for the first time, we're moving outside of the traditional routes, and I'm going to open up this container here, and hopefully the tablets don't fall out.
Oh, you have some tablets.
Microdosed THC and minors tablets that we've introduced. Now it's in Colorado right now. We are having insane amounts of success with this. We're getting ready to launch it to other markets as well. But just like the 6 effects we've got in the vapes, and we've got the 6 effects in the tablets, and then we also have, and the other thing that's insane about these is the speed to which you are able to feel the effect. Yeah. The problem with the people that are coming into the market that haven't been here before is they don't know how to manage their time clock of feeling the effect. So they have a problem with the gummy experience, right? They take one, think nothing's happening, think it's bad, and then the gummy carries them away in a way they don't like. Well, with this, This is microdosing of cannabis along with the minors, and it does an incredibly amazing job of not only acting fast, almost as fast as a vape, because we have proprietary technology that can actually bypass the liver and can get the effects happening very quickly. But it also is in a much more manageable dosage that people that wouldn't normally consume cannabis or would prefer to consume during the day, but without something that's going to take them to
Yeah.
not being able to function very well, works incredibly well and is even more discreet.
Yeah, there's not a lot of brands that do the tablet format. There's even less brands available that have the ability, capabilities, bandwidth, funding, whatever it is, capital, to do 5 to 6 or however many different SKUs you have of the effects based things. And I think
Yep.
that's huge because you're going to have the vapors. Vaping is still too much weed consumption. Athletes don't want to breathe in things like that. They want to ingest things like that, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
so these tablets they're pretty
Yeah,
trick,
that's
you
that's
know,
awesome.
40 in a case here, so it's 100 milligrams of
Yeah,
THC, which is really all what the enforcement cares about, right? But
yeah, of
so
course.
this is energy, so it has THCV as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So they match up with your vape partner, right? So you got the vape, you got the tablet, and then we also have a line of gummies. So you step up from these are 2.5 milligrams THC plus whatever
Mm-hmm.
minor is applicable.
And sugar,
The
are those sugar
gummies,
free too, Rich?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah,
Nice.
and they're not. They look like mints, but you don't want to. You don't chew them. Just swallow them. And then we have a line of the gummies match up. The flavor of the gummy matches the flavor of the vape. The gummies are, of course, 10 milligrams per piece. That's kind of standard.
Yeah.
Ours are scored with, our logos, the
Yep.
Drip C logo.
That Colorado
Is
C,
intended-
right? It looks like
Well,
that.
that was actually
That's why I thought you guys were a Colorado brand,
yeah,
Rich. The whole time I had no idea it was Long Beach, man.
yeah,
You me from
yeah.
the loop on that.
The Drip C
Nice.
was
Cool.
developed by, I think, Chase Martin, but it was the original group that I mentioned earlier. Chase, Chris, Courtney, and Brian. They came up with that logo. It just happens to look just like the Colorado state flag.
Yep.
And now we're based out of Colorado. But the way this logo came together and the way our molds work for the gummies is it's this Drip C logo, and it makes it really easy to tear it in half or in quarters.
Yeah,
So
the
you can
gummies.
take the 10 milligram and make it 5 just by tearing it in half. So anyway, the perforation is our logo, which I've always thought was clever. So.
That is dope. That is definitely. I've never seen that. I've never seen that before. That's definitely super. That's quite innovative, to be honest. I've never seen that or even heard of anybody trying to do that. That's awesome.
Usually just got to bite half of it, right?
Yeah. So back to your point, Joey, I think we love the industry that we're in, and we are a trusted brand because of the consistency of people knowing exactly what they're going to get. At the same time, part of our promise of being the first and the original is we want to expand the market to people that might be cannabis curious, might be a little bit concerned. They don't want to get overwhelmed. And so these, ultra low dose, vapes.
Those are going to be the best vape options for a first time user. Or
yeah. And then these microdose tablets are perfect, right? We have a saying, which is put down your rosé, the clear effects is here, right? You don't need the rosé. You no longer need the Xanax. You have something more plant-based, more natural that you can consume.
Yeah, man.
No calories, right? Calorie counting people are not big fans of all these extra things when it comes to rosé. Some people are, concerned about the chemicals within Xanax and other things that relax you. So this is a really good, alternative, especially with the relax, version of our effects line that we believe is bringing in a whole different market, which makes us, again, one of the first to really have something that truly meets the needs of an expanding market that we believe is out there.
I brought up those different oil types because it's like the headier the consumer, the longer they've been a consumer, we hear the industry always talk about, Rich, we don't want to keep people down just vaping disty all the whole time. We don't want to
Right.
just have customers shouldn't have to do that. That shouldn't be the only thing they have access to. There's all these different projected things
Yeah.
that take away choices for
Yeah.
customers. I want
Yeah.
accessibility. You know what, man? Here's the reality, everybody. My mom, God bless her soul, she loves fruity shit. She would vape every flavor of fruit that existed. If you gave it to her, you mix it with lemonade, she's gonna vape that too. Like it's easy like that.
Yeah.
My mom has had a cup of sweet tea in whatever car she's driven for 20 years. So if you give her a sweet tea flavor or anything, she's gonna vape it. It's just
We've actually worked on a tea one. It's pretty hard, but yeah, we had an iced tea. It's still in development, but because our thing's flavor, so we don't put
yeah.
out any flavors that don't undergo a shitload of testing, like annoying amounts of testing
I want to
to
talk
get it
about that
right.
with you guys too a little bit. The testing
Yeah,
element. Because you
we've
guys
been
to be the
wrestling with.
first, the science of the brand, right? It says right behind you, rigorously inspected. Like 14 different markets, 7 currently, different testing, different labs. Okay, great. What does R&D mean to the clear? What does quality control mean to the clear?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good point, and I can touch on your subject about the oil and what makes it a little different. So, everybody has learned now how to the steps to make what we would call our raw, or lobster butter is the colloquial name for our raw. There's a whole story behind that involves the founders, but
High quality crude, right? Is that where?
yeah. So we purify it down, which means it's a lot more expensive. We just have to run through short path and wiper many times. A lot of companies don't want to go to the expense to doing it. They just want to get it out. They're
They
still
call that
using
passes, right? Like
trim.
1 pass, 2 pass, 3 pass thing. Is that what it is, right?
Yes. And then we go to a whole nother level that I don't really think anybody else does. We sample. We have a panel of at least 5 people in each lab that manufactures the clear, who are on the testing crew. So it's a highly coveted job because at the end of the day, you are given a cart or two, which is raw, that we've made or acquired, and we actually taste it, and they do tasting notes, and we decide, we grade it. It's already been purified, so but then we grade it because some of our flavors are more sensitive than others, and we really want to taste what's in that. It's typically anywhere from a kilo to a liter to 5-liter batches of oil. So we'll test those literally human trial, right? They get carted up, they get taken home. They can only test 2 a night, and they really do a flavor profile of what that oil is, and then that gets paired based on the feedback from 5 different testers with the different flavors to make sure that when we add those compounds back, the botanically derived and concocted terpene formulas, that it matches with what we're putting it into at the base distillate, because it's still a natural product. So, we get it as pure as we can, and then there's a final step. So that is really, that's the secret. Take the fucking time and do the fucking work is the secret. Right?
Be very meticulous.
Give a shit, right? It's just I need you to give a shit. So that's
I think there's a key here. There's a key here, Rich, right? Because if you got to read between the lines a little bit and to really explain it to these people. It's about, they always, you said this, you want to sell to too many people. They don't really know their audience, because they don't really know their audience. They don't manufacture products as detailed and meticulously as they should, which comes down to oil, terps, R&D. And then what I'm gathering from you guys is QC, data-driven QC over time to provide those measurable results to give you the better insights and decision-making points, right?
Yeah. So we have the panel that scores and grades the oil, and sometimes it's oil that we can't use, right? Because it just won't match up. But then the products get manufactured, they get tested, and they get packaged. They go to the store. So then we have a whole program. So we have a scientist who does our R&D, and he's got all kinds of protocols for our staff and some of our investors and friends who live in the various markets that we're in, all the different states.
Different partners, different states.
Yeah, so we buy the product at the store, right? And we keep the packaging and the potency label, and they consume the product, and it gets scored, and it goes into a database.
Wow.
And ACE is looking at that so that we can hold. There's a lot of different steps where product can get goofed up, right?
A pre and post, a pre-delivery and a post-delivery QC check.
And it gets to the point where, look, as much process, as much technology, as much AI is involved in the testing and getting a third-party testing, all that stuff. At the end of the day, we probably do more secret shopping on ourselves than any other brand out there. And that's where the final mile, that's where the rubber meets the road. And so the only way we're going to trust that we have the best product on the shelves that will allow our consumers to trust us as much as we trust our own product is to do that secret shopping, which is the final mile part of all of this.
Yeah. That's huge because
it is important because, we, like I said, we can't cross state lines with biomass or finished products. So we have 7 different states. We've got 7 different labs. So, we have great partners. When they prove to not be great partners, we find a new one, or we leave the state if that's the case until we do have a good partner. But we want to make sure that they're always getting trained. We want to make sure that they're delivering on our brand promise, and we want to help them if they need retrained or help with their own QC. But we got several steps internally in the manufacturing process. QC, but ultimately the QC happens with the customer because we have a no questions asked replacement. Right?
Yeah, you guys stand on business return policy, huh?
Yeah, it's like and there's obviously everybody gets nervous about that, when you start talking about it, it's like, well, maybe people are going to take advantage, and I'm sure some have.
The data doesn't show that people do that. The data doesn't show that people do that anywhere.
Yeah,
employee theft is always a bigger problem at the retail level compared to that.
Very true. You can tell you work on a dispensary.
Unplanned sampling. Unplanned sampling is what that's called.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the here's the deal. At the end of the day, and especially with our Twax. So with our oils, we have a 14-point inspection process. With Twax, with our infused pre-rolls, we have a 13-point process. And that makes sure that when you're enjoying this, and hopefully enjoying it with others as well, it is as smooth and as potent as possible, so you don't get coughing, kind of like what you're doing right now with whatever it is that you're.
Yeah, what's that joint you just rolled up there, Joe? It's some swag.
Fellas.
I'm getting trim vibes here.
Listen. This
definitely not feeling the full flower effects of Twax like what we have right here. We got to solve that problem for you.
You need to come to Colorado.
You're target market number one.
Yeah. No cones.
And then in fact, one of our newer flavors. One of the newer flavors, Pure Pear, is as smooth as you can ever, smooth as a baby's bottom. If you smoked a baby's bottom.
I love you guys right now for roasting me. That's great. First off, my flower over here is lemon cherry gelato. It's a full flower joint. I put about 1.4 or so grams into this bad boy, and I'm enjoying the high. I'm having fun with you guys. I love the energy. I wanted to take a moment though to talk flavors. Because I was just thinking, I looked at that big word above you, Rich, says original. And I vaguely remember way back in 2016 and 17, back when I was a bud tender that first year, I feel like there was like unflavored distillate sometimes being in vapes at that point in time. Like there
Yeah.
was, you could get regular, and then you could get like the other terpene stuff. And
Yep.
so I want to talk a little bit about flavor. Good time for me to shout out the sponsor, Extract Consultants, our flavor partners, terpenes, aromas, flavors, fragrances, formulations, Extract Consultants. These are my guys. Big shout out to the family owned operated business. Over 50 years, I believe they've been doing it. It's super cool. Now, flavor wise, you talked about 20 plus flavors. What is some of the current lineup? Let's start off with your starting five because it's basketball playoff season. Who's your starting five right now?
The top five are so a Golden Goat and Blue Raz are always way up there. Orange cream, lime sorbet, and then it's kind of a mixed bag.
Final
You
one
pull
right now.
I
I got
pull
more
up some
questions. Don't worry.
data. Lemon haze,
Yeah.
lemon haze.
Solid. Solid.
Those would be the five I'd go with.
Golden
So-
Goat, man. I was introduced to Golden Goat by my old Diego Pellicer fam, Colorado.
Yeah.
My mentor, Lorenz, put me onto the Golden Goat, said it was huge there in Colorado. I don't see it around the country. Is that a Colorado flavor? Is that a Colorado strain? What's the deal with the Golden Goat? Tell me about it.
It's more popular out west because
Interesting.
the ancient strain is known more out west. Sort of. There are certain strains that I'm an old guy, so growing up back east, I grew up in Michigan. It was Acapulco Gold and Maui Wowie and
Okay.
Panama Red, and and really it was all just red hair fucking brickweed, but that's what the guy told me it was at the time. So but Golden Goat is really for the most part a flower faithful person's flavor. So there are more flower faithful in the West, I believe.
Like you talking about like strain loyal or flower loyal?
Yeah. Well, like I like to combust flower. I mean, I got friends that I've had to like tie them down and stick a vape pen in each nostril and hold their mouth.
Yeah, because they don't vape; they just refuse to vape.
Yeah, and then but when they try Golden Goat, they're like, "Holy shit! You actually got this. This is way more convenient." And you got to, but sometimes you got to take a Rastafarian warrior, Earth Mother, radical fairy, and beat them to death. But once we get them, they're like, they're never going to give up their flower, right? But at the end of the day, the convenience and the purity and the consistency is unmatched with our vapes. You cannot get that even with flower, right? So that's why Golden Goat's always up there. It really depends on the market as to how into our strain line they may get or that they promote.
Same flavors across all markets, Rich?
They are available to all the markets. They typically will run 8 to 10 flavors of the roster.
Yeah.
So they'll almost always run blueberry grapevine, OG, blue raz, strawberry banana, orange cream, potent pineapple. The raw you talked about that you sold in Seattle was lobster butter. And it's called lobster butter because when Chris and the team back in 2013 finally perfected getting the raw out and making it what we call clear today, they put some in a syringe and they went to have a celebration and they were all ordering lobster and they put the distillate in the clarified butter. Okay. And so they're dipping lobster in the clarified butter. And so that's kind of how it became called lobster butter. People always when they first hear about it, they go, "Is it lobster flavored?"
I equate lobster with quality, so I was just thinking maybe it was a higher quality of distillate. But
if you look at the butter that comes with the lobster,
it's called clarified butter, and it looks exactly like
that's funny.
Real clear.
I got some questions about this product though. So when it comes there's I've come to understand that there's levels to distillate. So there's obviously
Yep.
like crude, and then you pass, and then there's one pass, two pass, three, four, whatever it is. The better the input, the more residual cannabinoids remain
Yep.
through those
Yep.
things. When we talk about COAs and like why are people getting high, terpenes are an important part of it, but those residual cannabinoids definitely play a large role in distillate effectivity, right, or efficacy.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so,
So
what is that like for you guys? Because I'm not a chemist and I don't understand the extraction and all that, Lex. But I've read COAs and I can't help but notice that when those man, why does your brand smack harder than this brand? Well, you look at the COA and it's got like 1.2% of the CB whatever in it still.
right.
What is that like for you guys, or what do you guys try to do when you guys have to source that trim or those smalls or whatever that is?
So we start with very highly refined THC oil, and we get it down to 90 to 93% THC. The balance, that 7 to 10%, is either minor cannabinoids, but it's generally terpenes.
Yeah, some
So that's
combination of all of them, right?
yeah, and that's why we do the taste testing that I talked about earlier, because there's just a certain point where you just stop passing it and cutting it because it's just not economically feasible. So we get it to the point where it's very pure, which is why we have the high potency. And then we taste it, and then we pair it with our flavors. Now the flavor is nothing more than than terpenes and
Yeah.
flavonoids, right? So those terpenes and flavonoids have very specific affects because all those terpenes exist in the cannabis plant, which is what you're getting when you're combusting dry flower, right?
Yep.
So we this is why we're just very, very highly formulated and why it's so consistent. Is we start by purifying it down, and then we add back very intentionally based on the taste test and what flavor we're trying to
Yeah.
make.
Kind of like
And
whatever
whether we
bucket it falls into from the taste test.
well, yes, yeah, and then so the flavors are related to what's commonly known as either indica, sativa, or a hybrid, right?
Right.
So we call it daytime, nighttime, anytime, right? But the original concept was banana cream, blue raz, strawberry banana. Those flavors and those flavonoids that make up our proprietary trade secret compounds express themselves in a mimic of a hybrid. So those are anytime
Yeah.
flavors. So on the other ends, indica, typically indicouch, nighttime, blueberry, grapevine, and OG. The components to make those flavors are typically found in the indica plant,
That makes
right?
sense.
Then daytime, golden goat, lemon haze, lime sorbet, XJ13, which is code for Jack Hare. But those flavors tend to be more highly sativa,
Yeah.
right? More uplifting.
Energetic, THC, V, CBG, CBCs.
Yeah, well, we get more sophisticated when we start talking about the new line, the effects line, because now we're doing not only are we doing flavors or terpenes and flavonoids, but we're adding minors as well. So this the new line, the effects line, very, very highly formulated, very intentionally formulated to be to solve a problem, right? Rest, recover, relax, uh, um, energy, focus. These are all the effects that we're going for. Those effects are achieved in harmony with the minor cannabinoids and the specific flavors we've
Mhm.
chosen.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we're not going to take what we know to be a daytime flavor, right, and put it
Flip it.
in the rest, right? We're not going to put it in the rest vape, right? Because you're going to have conflicting chemical
It creates
react.
confusion down the road too, from a branding and communication standpoint as well. If you have a bunch of citrus sleep things and then darker berry stuff, that's daytime or whatever. That's not what
exactly
people
right.
typically color associate with, whether
Yeah.
it's at CVS pharmacy or or what the weed industry is doing currently either.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we've been wrestling with the cherry limeade. This flavor is going to kill me, or somebody's going to die.
That's a summertime flavor. That's easy.
Well, it's for the energy vape, and energy requires THCV.
And that's
THCV,
it's a finicky
very
minor.
finicky minor.
Yeah, that cannabinoid has a funky taste to it.
Yes.
I forget if it's like, is it like cat pissy or piney, right, or something like that.
Yes.
Kind of funky there.
So you were talking about R&D earlier. So Asa has been wrestling with this flavor, and he's the testing team is basically everybody here. So he comes in and puts on his suit of armor, and here's the latest try, and everybody's hitting it and beating the crap out of the poor guy. I'm very sensitive to bitter. So, so I'm always the one going, it's too bitter, right?
Yeah.
So,
that balance of the weed stuff gets tricky too, because that's it's have you ever noticed it too? It's the bitterness of the weed emulsion and how they whatever mix it, infuse it, nano, whatever whatever you guys choose to do for that realm, anyways. It's like it kind of hits you like spice. It either hits you right away, or it hits you 45 seconds later. It's so weird how that works.
Yeah. So because flavors are things, we spend a lot of time, and that's like, okay, you got rid of the bitterness, but now the flavor's gone. So if we're gonna say it's cherry limeade, it needs to taste like fucking cherry limeade, So it's
without being artificial.
Yeah,
and that's the tough part, and that's the thing that we are never going to get away from. Is it is plant derived, and so talk
the
about
clearest plant first in those regards, right?
Correct.
It's plant first and always.
So it makes something hard to become nearly impossible. To become like, we need Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, which is basically what our scientist is to solve an impossible mission. By the way, this is not the first time we've solved an impossible mission, but it's a ton of testing. We're not just going to throw things out there and see what sticks. We're going to only put the things out in market that we've beaten the crap out of until the point where we have nowhere else to go, but this is the right thing for the market.
One thing that's really cool,
we owe it to our partners, right?
Oh, yep. Go ahead.
I was just saying, we owe it to our partners because we work a lot like a franchise, because we license compliant operators in each state. So when we send them a flavor, it's not, hey, what do you think of this, right? We it needs to be right, because we use Colorado as Clear University, so we test everything here. And not just the formulation, but everything from the marketing to the messaging to the price points to the pitch to the the bud. And the next level is we get bud tenders and we go, okay, what do you guys really think? And what do you think of the hardware? What do you think of the mouthpiece? What do it's a whole damn thing, so that when it comes to Massachusetts, New Jersey, or Montana, it's done, right? The only thing they got to do is actually execute the plan. So.
The big thing that I've gathered from this entire episode with you guys is how much of a core commitment you guys have. The Clear is clearly committed to, as you said, rigorously inspected there. That was the one that stood out to me as the oddball back there, because you just would think it's just lab testing and lab inspections and all that center. It's not. You guys are reading between the lines. It's how much work you've put in to figure out how great that product is, and then before it even can go into these markets. And I really respect that. And that's where, the original high potency you guys are committed to, the technology, the innovation, right? These customizational aspects. And then, going back to the R&D, it's just great. So many different flavors. You said 14 states overall, down. It's at 7 now. The market's
active.
I think it's incredible, guys. What to run it through, Brett? Which states are they again? So that way we can let people know to go ask for you guys if they're there.
Colorado, Montana, Missouri, Arkansas, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Nevada.
Nevada, let's go. God, I can't wait till we get back to you guys up to 14 again. Hopefully, it'll be an exciting day when the market's back pumping strong.
I think what's fun is getting to 14 and then getting to 50 when we can get there, right? But then also, there's this, the world doesn't think highly of us right now, but eventually that will be okay. And we do think that this has the legs because of that consistency, because of that quality, because of that trust, and because we can create that consistency across any state we go into. We have the opportunity to really create that consistency in any country one day as well. Yeah. And that's really where we see ourselves.
You meant once Trump stops pissing everyone
we're not going to get into politics. Okay. We're just going to say we have a vision of being the most trusted cannabis brand in the world.
Yeah.
And we'll get there. But we're in the long game, and that's a very different strategy than people that are in survival or in for a quick buck, or they just want to kick butt in one state and don't realize what it takes to get into a second or a third or a fourth state.
Yeah. It's definitely a journey. It's been exciting to watch yours, Brett. I'm excited to get to know you and spend more time with you guys over the coming years, and hopefully I see you both up at MJ BizCon later this year. Fellas, I want to take the time to ask you the last question. It's a two-part one. What do you guys got up to for 420? What's going on with the Clear? What can people expect from the Clear? 7 states worth of promotions and collaborations. Brett, I'm sure you know what's going on at all 7 states worth of retail partners, every single one.
Yeah.
So why don't you? What are some of the most exciting things going on, I guess?
Yeah, he just declared victory for 420 in our meeting 2 hours ago, our all hands that we do. So, yeah, okay.
So I think what we have done is we've built a ton of confidence in our field team. And so we are doing a ton of collaboration with going back to your point you said before we started this, you don't hear about us in the news. You don't hear us about us on we're not spending a ton of money on press releases and things like that. We're letting the product do the work, but we have an incredible ground offensive team, meaning the people in the field that collaborate with the dispensaries. We're doing things in the community of these local, as you know, cannabis is one of the most local industries that there is. And so we want to respect and honor each state, each county, each dispensary. We're obviously offering some fantastic promotions. And if you follow us on our socials, the Clear Brands, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever else it is, you're going to see where we're running promotions. Yep. But it's things in the field that we're doing with our dispensary partners that I think we have a lot of passion about. We're not going and trying to do all the greatest air cover things. We're letting our field team that we know, we like, and we trust to actually give us guidance on what they want to do. So that's one of the biggest things. The second thing is, with 420, I think, we all sit back and we want the best deals. It's not necessarily a time to introduce new products to people. They just want to get the products they love at a better price. So we're offering those promotions. We're offering those discounts. For example, in New Jersey, if you buy one of our 1 gram or 2 gram carts, you actually get the Twax 1 gram for a penny, right? So we want to give people a way to experience all parts of our brand. So we're excited about that.
That's huge. Now,
can we talk about the Boulder thing?
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's probably the biggest thing.
So the coolest thing.
I heard Colorado Springs legalized too. So now there's
yes, they did. They went recreational just right away, and in fact, Rich predicted a gigantic order, and our manufacturing here in Colorado got that gigantic order. Here's what I will tell you about 420 also, and then I want to talk about the show for the last 2 minutes that we've got. We have, let's talk about 420. Oh, our sales on the wholesale side are greater than any other time in years.
Wow.
And that's a huge indicator of the trust in the brand to carry through to the retail side that happens. And because 420 is on Easter this year, we're trying to make 420 into a season, kind of like Amazon Prime Day. It's over several days, not just one day. We think that does a lot of good because of the overlap with. It's also the last night of Passover. It's Easter and it's 420, right? You got the holy trifecta. Everybody's going to be.
This is anyone's religion's way. Whatever your religion is, this is for weed, regular religion, anything. All things are pointing in the sign of cannabis right now. So,
but what's important to us is what happens at the retail level. But if the wholesale is a leading indicator, it's going to be a great 424. So it already has been at the wholesale level.
Beautiful.
The other big point to talk about is, and I don't know if you know about this, Joey, and I guarantee you're going to want to have another show about this. But, we talked about Rich and his son Rick that are the father-son combo of the business. They have actually been in a show, a documentary about cannabis called High Science.
Wow.
It's an incredibly well created show. It's from the producers and the people behind Ice Road Truckers, Storage Wars, Duck Dynasty.
Hell yeah.
This level
Pawn
of
Stars.
quality, Pawn Stars.
Oh.
And so this is, right now it's on YouTube. If you look for High Science, we've got 8 episodes in the season. But most importantly is it's been nominated for the for what Cannes Film Festival does for movies.
Mm-hmm.
The TV show version of that is called Series Fest, and it's taking place in Colorado this year.
Wow.
High Science is one of several shows that are nominated for the unscripted, the reality show style unscripted category, and we are very confident that we're going to, probably win based on what we hear and the buzz we're getting. So that's taking place April 25th through May 3rd here in Colorado. Amy Schumer is opening up at Red Rocks.
Let's go.
And then there's going to be a ton of events in both Boulder and Denver. But the show really unpacks and uncovers and really explores all aspects of cannabis, from the OG to the modern day, to things that are trying to bring in different audiences, to the struggles, and really lets you know a ton about all of it. So we're super excited about that. That's out on YouTube now. We are excited about the award or about the nomination to be one of the finalists, and we're excited to potentially be the winners of that.
What's the name of it again?
High Science.
High Science.
If you search for High Science TV, then you'll get to it.
Yeah, High Science on YouTube, High Science TV. There was a Funny or Die pilot called High Science. So how the producers got the name, I don't know. Maybe they end up getting sued down the road. But it's called High Science. I think you were at you guys interviewed us. It's got to be 5 years ago, up at the Palms when we had that giant suite.
Yeah,
and they were shooting me and Rick.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
That was the screen test stuff. We've been making this show forever, but there's
High Science. If you look for High Science TV on YouTube, you'll find it. There's 8 incredible episodes. The production quality, second to none. And we're excited again about the show. But what's interesting about that is the producers of the show, they thought they were going to bring in Rich and Rick as sort of like one angle of the show. They liked Rich and Rick so much, and they liked the concept of the level of quality and trust of our brand, that they actually turned Rich, Rick, and the Clear and all of its products pretty much into the star of the show.
Incredible.
And that's like, talk about establishing trust. That's a pretty cool example of that.
I'll have to go check it out, and I encourage everybody, all of our viewers and anybody that watches this after this live stream, to definitely check it out as well.
You have to sign in on YouTube because it's cannabis, so it's age gated. But we'd love to get a hold of it now before we win this thing and we get picked up by somebody.
We'll see you on Netflix soon.
Netflix is one of the judges, I think.
It's right? Roku, Netflix, and then somebody else that is a panel of judges.
Right on.
Wow.
So hopefully, we get to make more of them.
To learn more about that and to hear just the success and growth of the brand. Rich, I'm happy for you and your son. And Brett, it's been a pleasure to hear you and get a sense of your passion and feel and hear that as well. It's an exciting time, and it's dope that you guys both were able to meet in the software and technology world before this, and to do some of that, and now to be here having the kind of impact you're having on people, both consistency, science driven, data driven, R&D. I mean, you guys are doing it like you were saying. There's a lot going into it, and it's not just trying products. It's really, QCing it and really double checking and triple and quadruple checking in many ways. And for that, I applaud it. Those are so many different things that I learned on this episode today, and I definitely have more trust in that product now. And I can't wait to try the Twax product. I haven't tried that, but I'll have to get out there soon and try that, or connect with you guys on that somehow. But thank you guys again for joining me today, everybody. This was the 148th episode of the RMR podcast. I'm Joey J. Ping. Over there in the black and gold hat is Brett. And to his right, aka on left, if you're watching, is going to be Rich, the CEO. So big shout out to them for joining us today. Thank you for sharing all of your guys' perspective and your history. It was an honor and pleasure. We'll definitely reconnect soon. And I'll catch you guys on the next